Hello, everybody. We're going to do something different, at least my part of these, for the next several weeks. And it's going to be the subject of war. And war and money go together. There are going to be some hard truths here that some people won't want to hear, but we're going to take this on head on. Wars have cycles, and what you'll find historically is about the time the last total war generation has passed away, humanity seems ready for the next total war. And you can see we are kind of sleepwalking toward a bigger war right now. So the question is why? What's going on here? I want to give you a different lens on what's happening. We all know what is happening, but why? And I'm going to take it country by country. Today we're going to start with the hard one, Israel. I define Israel as an end times, the biblical term would be eschatological, but that's too long a word, end times garrison state, end times fortress. All right, what do I mean by this? Think about what's happened to the Jews actually over the centuries, but just in the last century, kicked out of Europe, Auschwitz, all the stories we know, and they end up in Israel. Right now they're 9 million people in Israel. 6.5 million of those are Jewish. The other 2.5 million are basically Muslims. All right, so they have the majority in the country, but surrounding them, you've got hundreds of millions of Muslims. So how do you start to think, given your history and your current situation? This is the end times part. If we are the last ones, if this is our last place where we're going to make our stand, and we're surrounded by hundreds of millions of quote unquote enemy, we have to always have what I call military overmatch. We have to be able to come against our foes with unsurpassed power to make sure they never come at us again, or at least for another generation. If we don't do that, if we look weak, then we can be overrun. So that's one part of their mentality. The second part of their identity is a little bit like a colonial or settler state. God gave us this land. It's right here in Scripture. These interlopers aren't supposed to be here among us. We are supposed to elbow them out. Thus, the settler situation, where you hear about the settlements in the West Bank and so on. Well, if you put this identity onto October 7th, when the Hamas attacked, how else could Israel respond? They have to show military overmatch. They have to crush Gaza. That's their mentality. Plus, it's the opportunity to push the Palestinians out of the land so it can return to its quote-unquote rightful owners. All right. Did Israel know this would bring the wrath of the world upon them? That you're going to kill women and children and civilians? Yes. There was no good decision. But because it's their identity, because it's who they are, an end times fortress state, they're acting exactly as you would expect. So with that, next week, we're going to take on the only other country in the world that thinks like this. Because America doesn't think like this, Bolivia doesn't think like this, China doesn't think like this. Only one other country. And I hope this starts to give you a perspective about how sometimes it seems like we can't avoid a war because of who we believe we are. How does this tie to investments? Our take here at Zanetti Financial is because of this mentality, not just with Israel, but we will later get to the Islamic mentality, this war is going to escalate. It's very difficult to find a situation where cooler heads prevail and de-escalation takes place at this point. What does that mean to you? Rising oil prices. It means more debt. It means more deficits. It means more money printing. It means more supply chains getting cut. All that is bad for the world out there. For your investment portfolio, it's very good. So we wish we didn't have to think like this, but we do. And with that, I'll turn it over to Walt.